result was not the best. I think the result was not the best. We could have taken 3 points today. We could have scored 2 or 3 goals in the first half. But Inter Miami is a very, very good team, and they have some big stars and big players. I'm just sad that we couldn't put the goal in the first half.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the On the Whistle podcast, our first review of the African teams at the Club World Cup. I'm here in a very noisy and boisterous media hotel at 1:20, 1:15 in the morning with Lorenz Köhler. Lorenz, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. We were just speaking about how tired we are, and every major tournament needs to start with leaving the stadium at past 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. rather, and having a chaotic day in blistering sunny conditions. So we've got that ticked off. So now we move on to the next thing, which was obviously the opening game, Al Ahly versus Inter Miami. It was quite an interesting game, actually. I think me personally, I thought Al Ahly will definitely win this game. I think they needed to win this game, considering the fact that they've got Palmeiras and FC Porto. So that's gonna be a big challenge. But I think they're a type of club that will rise to the occasion against these big clubs, and they've shown in the past that they can do it. You know what I mean? So I think they're gonna need to hope more that Inter Miami can spring some surprises against the other two to blow this group wide open. But first off, dominant. I think they had the better of the chances. And like all of us noted, Inter Miami came back in the second half, and El Shanawi really kept him in the game. But Ustari, man of the match, so that tells its story. I think maybe the penalty save on Trezeguet, dipped that into his favor for that award for this game. But I think they can obviously feel a little bit frustrated that they didn't win this game.
Yeah, and Lauren, one of the big storylines coming into this game from an Al Ahly perspective was new team, new players, new coach, Jose Riveiro. You know Jose pretty much better than anyone else.
Yeah.
What did you make of his implementation of kind of way he plays? Did you recognize this team from his Pirates team? How do you think he did in his first game?
Yeah, look, the first game I watched him against Pirates, I think I watched most of his games throughout his 3 years there. You could see an imprint immediately. It wasn't the full product. It wasn't very fluent or whatever, but it was possession-based football. Very patient build-up. He liked to play with width at the time at Pirates because he started his tenure with a back three with wing backs, and then he slowly developed into a 4-2-3-1. I could see that whole midfield combination that he implemented in Pirates in Al Ahly. With the double pivot initially, and then I saw in the second half he brought on Afsha and things like that, and he used the traditional 10, and I think Afsha and players like Taher is really gonna benefit from him compared to Kola, where Kola didn't usually play with that that traditional that Isco role 10 that is like a dying breed in football. So look, I think it was pretty much similar to his opening game at Pirates, where they created a lot of chances, but they just, for some odd reason that finishing touch wasn't there. I mean, Abu Ali had a couple of chances, even that one that he narrowly stayed offside in the beginning of the game. If they take those chances, you're looking at them probably an embarrassment for the home team in the opening game. So I did see a little bit of an imprint, a lot of similarities to his opening game at Pirates. And I think things will go from strength to strength. And perhaps he'll have a little bit of leeway. It's weird to say that about Al Ahly, but a little bit of leeway considering the fact that it is a brand new team. He teabagged Zizo as well, so that was a bit brave of him. It'll be interesting to see how the fans react to the performance because, me personally, knowing him well, I'd be calm about his future. Maybe the fans and the media might not be the same.
Yeah, I think that's always the problem with Al Ahly, and we were even saying this, when he signed with them, it's like the best and worst time to show up because you come up, you have a good Club World Cup, you're an Al Ahly legend.
Yeah.
You show up, you get embarrassed, you're gone in September.
For sure.
This is a club that doesn't mess around, and like you said, he showed a lot of courage not starting Zizou off the front because they have so many options, so many players going forward. Obviously, the big talking point was the penalty.
Yeah.
Penalty given to Al Ahly. We spoke to Wessam Abu Ali after the game. He told us he was the person who was meant to take the penalty, and Trezeguet came up to him, asked him for it. They argued for a little bit. Trezeguet took it, missed it. How much did that impact Al Ahly? Because obviously it was at the end of the first half, but then in the second half they were not the same team.
Yeah, I could imagine that's where management needs to, come into play, where you need to set the record straight in the dressing room and say that should never happen. I'm not saying that happened, but I'm saying like I've seen instances in the past where the coach has come up and said that. I think I could be wrong because I could be lost in translation, but I think that question was asked in the press conference about Trezeguet, and I think Coach Riveiro, like I said, the guy was speaking Arabic, the journalist, and Riveiro was speaking back in English. I didn't have the whatever, but but he did say something along the lines of, "It was my decision."
Oh, really?
So it could be he's protecting the situation or diffusing the situation. But then he went on to say, like, the penalty scored or the goals are scored, then it's a non-story. You know what I mean? Which is a typical. I think he's very experienced in this now because at Pirates he was under like pressure from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I asked him about that. I said, like, dude, like they literally called you a plumber when you arrived.
To his face.
Didn't
even hide it.
Yeah. The headlines was, "Who is this plumber?"
Yeah.
And now in the opening game of the Club World Cup against Al Ahly. And for those people that's watching that doesn't understand the term plumber, it's a foreign coach that usually comes into the country that they say is like, who is this guy? Like, he's not even a real coach. Anyway, cut a long story short, he said it was his decision. Stand to be corrected. And then, move on, focus on the next game, and obviously try and get a W in the next game.
Lorenz, kind of one of the things that fascinates us on the podcast, and me in particular, is this kind of relationship between African football and the rest of the world. How we see that all the AFCONs, African clubs, countries not taken seriously, particularly countries that are built off the back of African clubs. South Africa being a prime example, Egypt being a prime example, almost never given their flowers before a tournament, and then you see a team mainly based off Sundowns players and local-based players from Bafana making it to the semi-finals. Does this performance push that needle in any way in terms of European media, foreign media taking Al Ahly and African football seriously? Because that's so much about what this tournament is about, is putting kind of African club football to the front. What do you think foreign media will make of Al Ahly and make of the other teams coming after them?
It's a difficult one to answer because I don't think Inter Miami is really good, and I don't think a lot of people think they're really good. You know what I mean? They know, Messi, Busquets, Suarez are they're on their loss. I saw the banter around Suarez about man doesn't have any knees left, and I actually saw that live today. He's running like a wounded buffalo or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So you have to take that into consideration. A lot of people, when I posted something like Al Ahly is going to win, and a lot of people agreed with me in the debates around it, oh no, Inter Miami, they got Messi and whatever. But the general consensus was Al Ahly is stronger, and Al Ahly, in this type of environment, they've beaten Al Hilal 4-0, they've beaten Pachuca, they've beaten, these top North American teams, South American teams as well. So, it wouldn't be the first time. But the question is, can the rest? It's not just about them. They've been here, they've done that. Can Esperance bring a surprise? Can Sundowns bring a surprise? Can Wydad bring a surprise? You know what I mean? So you're always going to have that once-off thing, like Morocco, like Senegal, like Ghana, whatever. But it's about the collective not potentially going to semi-finals, but just showing up and not getting embarrassed. And I think if the collective come through and show good performances against these so-called, bigger clubs, then I think we will probably have that, discussion and reputation, and potentially more shop windows for, players to go to these different markets. And I think, particularly Asia is a very interesting market that I think our African players can potentially thrive in and earn good money as well.
Yeah, and that's always been an option for players. I mean, even you look at the Al Ahly team here. So many of them have been spent time in Qatar. You know, even players like Dieng in Saudi and Fatih coming back from Qatar.
Yeah.
The big question now is next up for Al Ahly, because Al Ahly were the African team coming into this tournament with the kind of best chance of getting out of the group. A combination of them having the pedigree and a weaker group, quote unquote. They didn't get the win that they really needed to get out of this group. Palmeiras up next. Obviously, we'll see how they get on against Porto tomorrow. But arguably the strongest team in the group, even beyond Porto, who've had a bad season. And Al Ahly in this game had so much good stuff. You know, you think particularly at the first 20 minutes when Ashur was on the pitch, they were excellent. They cut through Miami so much. But then that second half, El Shanawi saved their butt so many times.
Yeah.
What can they take from this into that game against Palmeiras?
I think they did take advantage of how slow the Inter Miami midfield and defense is. Like you said, they cut through it. So clearly, the tactical understanding and implementation from the coach in this game was there. So that's obviously positive number one. Positive number two is potentially that the other two teams that's coming up against him are going to see them as like, they there for the taking. So it's not every day that Al Ahly come up against a team that is not playing a low block, And I think that's probably why they carved open Inter Miami like this today, because it's like, this team is not coming here to, we're not playing Joliba or,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, they're not coming here to just lay lambs to the slaughter and have a back six, or you know what I mean? So I think that could play into their advantage, because everybody knows in Africa that Al Ahly has crazy attacking quality.
Yeah.
So that's probably where they can take advantage against Porto and against Palmeiras. However, look, I don't know. I don't follow Brazilian football that well to have a informed opinion of how strong they are this season, but they were like just another level above Al Ahly in the previous Club World Cup that I watched. That time they had players like Danilo, that's at Nottingham Forest. He was a very highly rated youngster. So I could see the level of the Brazilian league, and Al Ahly was, there was a level in it.
Yeah.
So in terms of that quality, we know that they potentially have better players. But it's a different generation of group of players between Al Ahly and a different generation of group with Palmeiras. So we'll see. But I think they can feel confident that they can still get Sundowns as well. Sundowns also has an interesting group. I think off the bat of the draw, we looked at those two teams and we're like, these ones definitely have a chance. And not because they are far better. Okay, they might be, but the other two, Wydad and Esperance, have very tough groups.
Especially with that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And for me, Esperance, when we saw the draw, they had a weaker group. But since then, both Flamengo and Chelsea have just kind of gone to another level.
Yeah.
And I do think that LAFC are a better side than Club Leon. So it's become a tall order. Lorenz, as always, thank you so much. What are you doing for the rest of the Club World Cup? Where are we going to see you? How can we see you?
Yeah, so basically, okay, we
He's-
knackered.
he's done.
Now
He's
we
done.
both, everybody can see everyone like on their last battery now, and my stuff is charging there at the back. So yeah, I'm going to Orlando for the opening game with Sundowns and Ulsan, and then Cincinnati, the Dortmund. That should be interesting with Sundowns. And then coming back here, probably I'm gonna watch a Brazilian team. It's either Fluminense or Palmeiras. I think it's
I
Palmeiras.
think Palmeiras is here, yeah.
Yeah, I think watch them at Hard Rock Stadium again, and then Sundowns is playing Fluminense. Yeah, so it's Palmeiras probably. Fluminense versus Sundowns, and then we'll see. Like, you never know. Sundowns might nick a win here and then and go to the group stage, and that changes, my plan of action. But yeah, guys, my social media channels, my name, Lorenz Köhler. You can follow me there. And yeah, it's probably going to be a very interesting tournament. So yeah, let's see what happens.
Honestly, at this point, if you don't follow Lorenz, I don't know where you are, what kind of rock you're hiding under. Lorenz, thanks so much, brother. Looking forward to seeing what else you put out on your channels.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's an interesting braai in Miami, a mini braai. Not even in the chops. We've just got some coffee here. So yeah, guys. Until next time.
And to think of all the days not to be braaiing, the day when the Proteas have won, this we should be celebrating, and yet here we are. But
Cheers to Temba Bavuma and the team.
exactly. Cheers.
Cheers.